Okay, so it's a two-stroke engine. The lubrication for the engine is contained within the fuel, so you always need to mix your fuel with two-stroke oil. If you put straight gas in here, it's the best way to ruin your chainsaw. So it always needs to have two-stroke oil. It's 50-to-1 ratio, 50 parts gas to 1 part oil. That goes in here. The other fluid that it requires is bar and chain lubricant to lubricate the chain running around the bar. It lives in here. It'll go through about 1 tank of bar oil for every 2 tanks of fuel, but it's a good idea to check both and top them up whenever you're doing one or the other. So, in order to start this guy, you have a 4-position switch here. All the way up, the 0 is off. 1 down, the I is on. In order to get it into half choke or full choke, you got to depress the throttle, and you take it down to full choke. If you're starting it cold, you want to start on full choke. At that point, you start pulling the chainsaw over. Make sure you have 2 points of contact while you're pulling. It's usually 5 to 10 pulls, and then on full choke, and then it'll kind of cough. It won't start and run, but it'll make a little coffee noise. At that point, you need to move it up 1 position to half choke, and within 2 or 3 pulls, it'll fire up, and the chain will start spinning. And at that point, you need to blip the throttle. And when you blip the throttle in half choke, it automatically pops it into run. Engine will idle down, and it's running ready to go. One important safety concern is the chain brake, which is this thing right here. When you pull the chain brake back, the chain is free to move. If the chain brake is forward, it locks the chain in position. That's mainly to guard you against kickback. If you're running the saw and you just kind of brush the tip against something, that chain's spinning around real fast and will kick the chainsaw back at you. And your hand will hit that chain brake and immediately stop the chain so you don't cut your head in half. So when you're running the chainsaw, you want to make sure that chain brake is off. If it's on, you can start to heat up the clutch and melt stuff in here if you're hitting the throttle. So you want to have that chain brake off when you're operating the chainsaw. Onto the chain, you'll get one of these as a scrunch in the bag. In order to remove, this is your bar nut, this is your chain tensioner. So when you want to take your chain off, say it's gotten dull, you got it into the dirt or something, keep it out of the dirt. Great way to dull your chainsaw right out real quick. So that comes off of there. And this is running around the sprocket. So this can go on there either way, it doesn't matter. However, the chain, when it's on there, you need to have the sharp cutter tips facing forward on the top. Otherwise, it ain't going to cut nothing. So you pop that on there. Put that into place, and then just run your nut down until it's flush. And then you just kind of want to run the chain, make sure it's running okay. And then to appropriately tension it, you want to bring your chain up until it's just touching the bar. And then you want to lift the nose of the bar up, see that it exposes some extra slack. And then suck it up some more until it's flush there. Tighten it down the rest of the way. It needs to be snug, it doesn't need to be super tight. And then run it and recheck. This is still a little bit loose. You see, I've got a whole bunch of teeth I can see the bottom of. So, go back. Lift the nose of that bar up again. Give it just a little twist more. Tighten her down. Spin it. Okay, and that's good. You should be able to see through the bottoms of 3 or 4 teeth on there. One other thing, these chains, once you've made a handful of cuts with them, they heat up, the metal expands, and you get some extra slack in there. So after you've made a handful of cuts, shut off your saw and recheck that tension. And if you're seeing like some drooping when it's just sitting there, I'm pulling on it now, but if it's just drooping and sitting there, then you need to retighten your chain. see. If you're going to be starting it when it's not cold, say you've just shut it off and you want to go ahead and restart it, don't take it down to full choke. Take it up to half choke. If you start it on full choke, you're going to flood the saw when the saw is warm. So if it's warm, half choke. If it's cold, start off on full choke. Then go to half choke after it coughs. What's going to make you happiest with your saw is keeping a sharp chain. You want to see nice, square, fat chips. If you start seeing sawdust or start smoking, your chain is really dull. You need to either sharpen it or bring it into me for sharpening or replace the chain. We'll get you all set up. It has a 1-year warranty. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to call me. My name is Mike. I'm the tech here. I'm happy.